Hello, it's me. I'm alive. Remember, I used to make stuff. Whew, I'm out of breath. I've been running for some reason. I'm heading out to see the new Backrooms movie by Kane, Parsons, distributed by A24. Also, I'm here in the lovely city of Melbourne. That's pretty cool. I live here now. A lot of exciting changes in the life of MaxibonHR. I'm not even just saying that. It's genuinely a really exciting time. So, I won't yap your ear off. I will come back to this when I'm not around a bunch of people and when I am out of the movie, and I will be sharing with you my immediate afterthoughts. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello? Hello?
Just got out of watching Backrooms. I got a lot of thoughts on that. First one is, people in the cinemas need to learn to shut the fuck up. Oh my god. Like, I don't get why you buy movie tickets to sit in your fucking chair when the movie starts and have a conversation the whole time. What is your problem? I get, like, a quiet whispering conversation amongst your friends. That's all well and fine. But why are you having a full-on fucking yarn the whole time? What's wrong with you? Morons. Anyway, when I get inside my apartment, I'll talk about it a little bit better. There's a fucking AI app on TV over there. That really pissed me off. That's really irritating. Since I've moved to Melbourne, I think there are two major things that I really struggled to understand and kind of wrap my head around. The first one is the fucking weather, because this is getting absurd. I mean, I walked out of my house shivering, and now I feel like I'm sweating like a prize pig at the show. I want this video, by the way.
Yeah, I'm getting away.
Oh, I'm scared.
Well, go on.
Fucking hell! Did you hear that? On that. Jesus!
That's amazing.
The other big thing is the movie Backrooms by Kane, Parson. Now, does that sound pretentious as hell? Yeah, a little bit, but we're gonna roll with it. Hello, you might not know who I am. My name is Max. I am a film student currently. Before that, I used to make videos. You might have seen some of them here and there. You might not have. You probably didn't if you're watching this one, because I'm making it for my class. So, all things considered, hello to you guys. Don't watch anything else that I make, because you'll be embarrassed. I'll be embarrassed. Yeah, so I guess I wanted to sit down and give a little bit of a discussion on my initial thoughts of the Backrooms movie, as well as give a bit of an introduction as to kind of what I want this sort of vlog series to be. For context, the main reason I'm starting these up again is part of an assessment is to do some extracurricular activities. One of them, the optional ones that are required there optional and required are oxymoron, but either way, one of the options there was to do a video log series, or at least a vlog, right? I've been kind of struggling as to what the hell you even make a vlog about, you know? I've never really done that. I don't particularly feel like my life's so interesting that I need to whip out my phone and record a lot of it. But yeah, I guess I'm just going to use it to discuss some of the movies, shows, books, things that I've been watching, things that I've been getting into, things I've been reading, my brief thoughts on truck going by, brief thoughts on those kinds of things, and then sort of see where it goes from there. So I guess as an introduction to what I've been reading lately, I've been reading Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I did also just go to QBD and pick up a couple of books. I picked up American Psycho, and I've also picked up Friday Black. It's a collection of short stories that I've been meaning to read for a long time. Hopefully I'll get a chance to in the coming weeks, so I can give a bit of a update on those and my thoughts in that regard. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been reading at the moment. Nice to get a wide variety of books. I have been trying to read a little bit more novels as opposed to just comic books, which I've been mostly reading for a while. Onto shows and stuff. So the recent season of Euphoria has wrapped up. I'm yet to see the season finale. That is what I'm going to go up and watch after I record this. I gotta say, I'm really not a fan of this latest season. I think that it took a concept that was already challenging to get into and sort of morally, it felt kind of morally icky to watch even a lot of the time, but at the very least you could argue that it had some kind of a message or a point or some kind of theme to discuss, with its ongoing delve into the depravity of the specific high school, like inner city area that these kids lived in, and the struggles and trials and tribulations that they had to undergo. I feel like this latest season has felt more like a delve into just the fetishes of creators, and frankly, it's kind of disgusting. It's hard to watch, not in the sense that it's this really gripping, incredible adventure or whatever, anything stupid like that, but it's hard to watch in the fact that it's just gross, it's just yuck, and on top of that, it's boring. That's kind of the worst part. I think I've said in my classes that I think you should be able to do and say anything you want when making film or making television, making anything really. You should be able to do whatever the hell you want, as long as it's good and as long as it's within reason. I feel like sometimes you do sometimes you need to be tasteful about certain subjects, and I think Euphoria has already failed in that regard. But I think worse than that, from a storytelling perspective, it's just a boring thing to watch. Like, it's not interesting. So I'm not really excited to watch the finale. It's just something I'm watching because I have nothing else to watch, Another movie I saw recently was the recent Obsession, which I also enjoyed a lot. For my brief thoughts on that, I think typically I'm kind of with what a lot of people are saying online. I don't necessarily have anything like unique to add to that conversation. It's not exactly a subtle movie, which I think is good for what it's going for. It's definitely very patient with what it asks of its audience. It's a weird kind of silly concept, but once it gets going, it really gets going. It really grips you and pulls you in, and I think it's definitely worth a watch. But I guess for the main discussion today, Kane Parson's Backrooms. So this one was distributed by A24. I don't have the entire cast and crew on hand at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah, so the film, it's based off of the relatively popular internet horror phenomenon, which was then adapted by Parson himself into a video web series. Loosely in the genre of analog horror, if you guys are aware of what that is. But if you aren't, analog horror was a sort of internet phenomenon as well, where people would take either real analog footage, like from VHS tapes, old TV recordings, things along those lines, and they would recontextualize or edit them or recreate them in order to construct a horror narrative based deeply in that was deeply rooted in the nostalgia of the period of the late 80s through to the early 2000s, when VHS and analog media were still very much dominating the media landscape. While Backrooms doesn't necessarily fall into that category one-to-one, it did utilize a lot of those elements to tell its own very unique horror narrative about this exploration of a endless, impossible, liminal space that seemed to stretch on forever, and that was seemingly accessible by phasing through the walls of our established reality into this impossible place that just shouldn't exist. It's definitely a very interesting concept. I think it sort of takes the best aspects of the original post of what the Backrooms was by sharing that. Yeah, it is just this big, empty, yellowing, faded office room that looks as though, it looks like so real, and yet it's impossible. There's no way you can get in, there's no way you can get out. It's the uncanny valley of, similarly, if you've ever been to an abandoned mall, these liminal spaces, these meeting spaces where that are designed to be connecting bridges almost between a space, almost the original third space in a way, a fourth space, I'd argue. So the concept in that regard, the concept of a third space is somewhere people congregate that isn't their work or their home, right? Your home would be your the first space, your work would be your second space, and a third space is somewhere you're meant to congregate socially, where the purpose of that is solely, or at least primarily, for social interaction, as opposed to the commerce and business transactions. So something like a shopping mall, for example, would technically fit into the category of the third space, because whilst there are stores in a shopping mall, the mall in and of itself is a place where people widely congregate, get together, meet with each other, and go and then participate in commerce, participate in that second space. And I think that's kind of a big part of the uncanniness and almost the horror, and I say almost the horror, and I'd like to expand on that in just a moment, but almost horror of what the Backrooms represent, seeing these places that are meant to be filled with life and energy and just people, and being trapped in one where there is none of that sort of there's none of that recognizable human element that makes it what it should be, and it's, I guess, unsettling to be a liminal space, and why I refer to it as a fourth space as opposed to a first, second, or third space is because these liminal spaces are sort of meant to be the connecting bridges between these other spaces. You never see an actual office cubicle or an actual floor where office workers sort of would be. You sort of see what looks like a building in construction, or recently constructed, or abandoned years beforehand. You see an office walkway where there should be people walking to and from their cubicles. You should see an elevator when you turn the corner, and yet in any instance there's nothing. There's none of that recognizable iconography. A line in the movie that really summarizes it perfectly is that trying to explain the Backrooms without seeing it is it's like trying to explain what a dog looks like to someone who's never seen a dog, and then asking them to draw it. They get most of it right. From a distance, you'd likely be able to recognize that thing they've drawn is supposed to be a dog, but there'd be little differences, little inconsistencies, little just wrong things that don't make any sense, that would give away the fact that that they're unfamiliar with this concept. It would just be wrong, and I think the movie asks a very intellectual question, ironically, to not look at it through an intellectual lens, or rather, not look at it through an intellectual lens, but rather to discuss it through how it makes you feel emotionally, and the kind of the feeling of dread that it instills in your gut, as opposed to what the Backroom necessarily represents, or what its narrative is trying to say explicitly. As much as it is a horror movie, I don't particularly find it all that scary, really, except for some, a couple scenes here and there, but I think that's by intention. So what I mean by that is that it's not something that's meant to, you go in and you're, sitting on the edge of your seat, waiting for, cowering in fear in the back of it, even just waiting for the next terrifying moment, but more so it evokes what I think was more interesting about the concept of the Backrooms initially, that has sort of lost its appeal in certain years as it's existed on the internet, in that it's the idea that it's scary if there is some kind of big horrible monster chasing you, and in the movie there does end up being, aspects of that. But I think what's more terrifying is that what if there's nothing in there, I think, and the movie sort of grapples with that on a literal level, and also on a metatextual level. Our main character is a furniture salesman who wanted to be an architect. He's developed this coping mechanism over the course of his life where he just pushes people away because he's, afraid they're going to hurt him if he doesn't eventually. So he hurts them first, they can't hurt him back, or hurt him initially, Before the movie starts, he's just gotten into a massive fight with his wife, who's kicked him out of the house. He feels sort of like trapped and alone, and like everyone in his life is forcing him to change, to be this better person, to compromise, and it's sort of to a point where he's lost any ability to participate in any self-reflection, and so when he does enter these backrooms himself, and when he I guess ends up being trapped in the backrooms, and when he ends up so when he feels that he's sort of found his place where he feels comfortable, where he doesn't have to change, it's sort of a weird place where he feels safe, and he feels how would I say it, comfortable, free almost from all of his perceived responsibilities. He doesn't have, the backrooms are completely isolating, and there's nobody in there. He's completely alone. He feels like he's free of his responsibilities. There's kind of an element or a discussion almost of freedom in the movie that delves particularly into the idea of being free from not just necessarily your responsibilities, but free from yourself and the baggage that you bring with you. And so he feels as though, because he has this idea that no one will look for him, no one out there in the real world particularly cares all that much about him besides his therapist, and we'll sort of come back to her in a moment. So nobody really cares about whether he did go missing. The only two people who would even know that he'd gone missing are his employees, and he's taken them into the back rooms with him, and they've gotten killed. So it's less that he has nothing out there left anymore to strive for, and more just he's what who even cares, I'm so lost in the deeper levels of this impossible place. There's no chance I'd ever be able to find my way out anyway. But even if I did, would anybody even notice that I'd been gone? And there's kind of a feeling of dread as opposed to fear with that. It's more sad, I think, that it is scary. In a good way. I don't want to say canonically established, but it's theorized at the very least that the backrooms exist as these weird uncanny valley type of places with these almost human creatures that don't feel anything and don't seem to have any cognitive ability, and only exist as nightmares. And keep that word in mind, nightmares specifically, because they are creations of memory, in that every time there's kind of a known phenomenon with memory, that every time you remember something, you remember it a little bit wrong because of the way your brain narrativizes, recontextualizes, and rationalizes the idea in your mind. When you remember what you look like the last time you saw yourself, and that could have been yesterday in the mirror, if you keep remembering that at different points of the day, you will come up with an entirely different view of yourself over time, until you look in the mirror and realize, wow, I was really wrong. I was really off about certain aspects of myself. If you think about your childhood home that you might not have lived in for years, even if you still live in your childhood home, right? Think of a home you haven't been to, or a place you haven't been to in a long time, and think about the photos you've taken of it, right? Even if you don't look at those photos, even if you do look at those photos, regardless, it'll cause the same phenomenon where you will continue to remember that place differently over and over and over and over again until eventually it's almost unrecognizable or just completely different from the person, from the place that it actually is. What's important then is that Clark is down there in this Backrooms equivalent of a family home, and I'm not sure if it's meant to be his family home or if it's just a house that he found. It's just this house that's been slightly misremembered, so the walls are all this weird triangular shape with strange angles and weird proportions, and windows that peer out into nothing. It's an incredibly unsettling environment and he's explaining it with these humanoid monsters he's sitting with, where they sit down with him and they go, and they don't say anything, they don't think, they don't feel, and they're these weird approximations of glitched people that sort of look a little bit human, but they have too many eyes, or their noses are stacked up on top of each other with too many fingers. I almost want to say that the movie might even be making a commentary on AI. I've heard people say that online. Personally, I think I'd have to watch the movie again with that idea in mind to sort of understand that perspective, because I wasn't particularly, I didn't really see that myself. It's this place that obviously it's wrong, and obviously it's not, I don't want to say not real, because they're all there physically, but I guess it's not the real world he's from. But what it is that it's familiar and similar to the patterns of behavior that have led him to the Backrooms. It's something he feels comfortable with. It reinforces that idea that he doesn't have to change, because the Backrooms are always going to be there. His weird shifting fragmented memories of a place that never really was are here, and now he can freely exist in them without fear of how he's going to come across to the people around him. I guess is the best way that I can phrase that. On that regard too, it's this when he is attacked by the monster that does happen to be there, that is at least seemingly manifested itself as a version of himself, dressed up as the mascot of the store, Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire, which is they do make an allusion to that about what's the point of why is the store named that? Are you going for the pirate themed or the Sultan theme? Because you're doing two things here. So that was pretty funny. I will say there are some pretty funny jokes in here. It's definitely a bit, I don't want to say campy, but it's not, it understands that it's not taking itself so seriously that you can't have a bit of a laugh with it. And I think that levity is necessary for setting up the parts that are genuinely scary. So when this monster does rock up, that's reconfigured itself to be a manifestation of, I guess, how Clark sees himself, this grotesque mascot that doesn't mean anything, that stands for nothing, and he says to it, we don't have to change, and it's sort of yeah, great, you don't have to, but if you don't, then I guess, so what happens is that this big monster, he kills Clark, right? He picks him up and he bites into his shoulder and murders him. And to me, I guess what I took from that was that Clark doesn't have to change, sure. But if he doesn't make the changes, and because he refused to make the changes that would have led to him living a better life and being a better person, being a better husband, right? Being more pleasant to be around, learning to take responsibility, his inner demons and the monster he views himself as, it sort of destroyed him, right? And while in the real world, that would be a more metaphorical thing. That would be more like metaphorically, you lead yourself down a dark path where you become a crueler person, similar to the messaging in Obsession, and how unchecked desire can destroy the lives around you. It's more of a literal sense that he died because of it, but it sort of represents that more metaphorical idea of you've led yourself down to this dark place, and there's no one left for you to blame because you're the only one here. At the end of the movie, we sort of leave off with the therapist character who around the start of the third act, end of the second act, she enters the back rooms looking for Clark, who kidnaps her and takes her to this house. This is where we see the revelation, where she backs down. I think her arc throughout the movie has been learning to let go of trying to help this person who just so clearly is not accepting any of the help that she's trying to provide. And though while she was doing that in a professional capacity, it feels like she's been trying to do that for everybody in her life, and tried to do so for her mother while also suppressing the trauma she faced as a child. And she's kind of at this point where she has to violently put her foot down and say, no, I'm not helping you anymore. I can't help you. I think she says almost verbatim, I can't help you. I've tried. You have to help yourself. Which is what leads to Clark having his breakdown of, I don't want to change. Get in here, I don't have to change. And she says, yeah, you don't have to. You can stay here, Just and I guess to me it speaks to if you want to stay here and live in this fake place with fake people where you feel like you can be the person you want to be, that's your choice, and you can do that. If you're happy here, if you're happy and you're comfortable in your misery, that's fine. But I'm not. So let me go. The movie sort of ends with this monster representing this monster, that the one that I mentioned before, that was sort of a manifestation of Clark's mascot for his store, and it starts chasing her, the therapist character, through the rest of the back room as she desperately tries to escape, eventually managing to before being captured by what is assumed to be like some kind of government department, or at least it's a research facility that has been investigating the back rooms for some time now. And I guess she's been really struck by this idea, and this is where it gets into the parts of where I'm not going to sit here and say that I fully understand what the Backrooms is trying to say, because it has this ending where she is being spoken to by the scientist in charge, trying to explain sort of what this Backrooms place is and how long they've been investigating it, and how every day his job is to go in and explore and just see if he can find anything of use in there, and just try to understand it even a little bit, and they can't, and it's sort of breaking him apart. He's really shaken by this idea that he can't understand this impossible place. And it ends with her, as the audio fades out, and we sort of see things from her perspective as she kind of dissociates from the conversation. We see the rooms, the camera sort of shifts through the floor, and we seemingly descend back into the back rooms as this place sort of turns into this warped reality of the room she was in, of the street. In fact, it seems as though the whole world around her is shifting into this backrooms place, and we end off with her sitting in an empty sort of distorted and wrong version of the facility she's sitting in and being interviewed in the real world, but this version of herself is completely warped and distorted with too many eyes and a shoulder that's sort of popping through and phasing through the rest of her shoulder. If you've ever seen like a Resident Evil boss, it almost looks like mid-transformation one of those guys. Any excuse to drop Resident Evil. And perhaps it's even just something as simple as the conversation literally happening right now is a man of science sitting in a room and desperately trying to get this person who's just escaped the Backrooms by herself to try and tell him what she saw in there. And she's traumatized and she's shaken and she doesn't know, like, if she says anything, right, are they gonna let her leave? Because she's seen this place she's not supposed to have seen, that shouldn't exist. And people, they get silenced, they get disappeared for that kind of thing. And so she's sitting in this room thinking, wondering if that's going to happen to her. I think it's about as much about the Backrooms, the literal place in universe, as much as it is literally about the conceptual Backrooms internet trend and phenomenon and how much it has blossomed out. The director, Kane Parson, has spoken about how there's a lot of sort of fan-made internet lore and different levels and sort of different means of experiencing the Backrooms that seek to sort of explain and expand on what really only works if it's an unexplainable, vague, and like an unexplainable and vague and unknowable concept. So once you sort of bring in this intellectual idea, so rather once you start intellectualizing it, they sort of lose their power, they lose their fear, they lose what makes them scary in the first place. Because sure, while you're sort of uncovering newer and newer things that you want to find out more about, you're starting to familiarize yourself with this place. And I think that's kind of part of what the movie is about. Not just Clark familiarizing himself with the Backrooms he's literally physically stuck in, but the fact that we as an audience have familiarized ourselves with the concept to the point where it's starting to kind of lose its appeal. That's, I guess, what I took out of it, but at the same time, it's not something I'm entirely sure about. And when I speak about the kind of movies that I want to be making, God willing, this film school thing pans out, that's sort of what I mean. I want to make something, it's exactly the kind of movie that I'd like to make one day. Something that kind of leaves you confused, where you walk away thinking, I'm not really sure what I was meant to feel about that, but I have so many ideas, I have so many things I could talk about, so many things I could discuss. I don't know that I can fault any part of the movie. This doesn't make me sound very smart, but it's almost something that feels like it's it's a smarter movie than I am as a person. And I like that, I like seeing films that kind of challenge me and make me feel a little bit confused. I liked that I walked in not knowing what I was going to get, and I left not entirely understanding the movie that I just watched. I don't particularly love giving numerical ratings because I do. I think that my reviews in and of themselves can speak for themselves with the language and the words that I use, but I almost feel as though the only way I can get people to go and experience it for themselves is to tell you that I would personally give it a 5 out of 5. I feel as though I have so much more to say on it, but I'm almost struggling to think of what points I would even bring up, because it's all sort of like, here's a new thing I didn't understand about the movie that really intrigued me, that makes me want to know more, but in the best of ways. And I really love that. Again, that's the exact kind of movie I love seeing. It's weird, it's out there, it's bizarre. That's the best way I can put it. It's a bizarre movie. And I think we need more bizarre movies. I love watching fucking bizarre movies. Begonia and Kinds of Kindness and Poor Things, I really loved all of those movies. Probably Poor Things not as much, but something like Begonia was just so strange and unsettling. And I feel like Parsons almost must have taken some kind of inspiration from those kinds of movies to sort of, to make it, just to do whatever, make the movie you want to make as in the way you want to make it, as confusing and as difficult to pass as you can possibly do it, that remains true to your vision as a creative, and let the audience interpret it themselves. You will find the people who are willing to grapple with the film as a concept will grasp it, and they will come into the fold. You will weed out, you'll separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, as to the people that you want to cater to, right? You don't compromise on the things that you want to make. I see elements of Lars von Trier's good movies in there, you know, like The House that Jack built. You know, even elements of I want to say the very few good parts of Nymphomaniac, a movie I think is self-indulgent slop, frankly, but that's a whole other discussion. I've been talking here for 40 minutes, I'm likely going to cut out a bunch of this, so I don't know that I want to speak too much more on the topic just right now, but I mean, I just want to preface again that I very much thoroughly enjoyed the Backrooms movie. I really hope that if you do get a chance to see, that you do go and see it yourself. It's going to be in theaters for a good long while, I imagine. I mean, it's a horror movie in May that's doing gangbusters. It's going to be in there for a while. For those wondering, raspberry grape ice, if you can see that. That would be my unfiltered first thoughts review of the Backrooms movie. Yeah, you know, I would like to do sort of more of these where I just sort of sit down and discuss the movie that I just watched. If you did enjoy this for whatever reason, maybe seek some professional help. Thank you very much for watching. You know, I'd like to get back into making more stuff while I am down here in I want to say beautiful Melbourne, but the weather has been killing me lately. Thank you for sticking with me, those of you who have. If you enjoyed the Backrooms, if you have seen it, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you think this video is crap, dislike it. If you think it's good, give it a thumbs up. If you think that, you know, you want to see more of this kind of thing, feel free to, you know, drop in the comments if you'd like to see me do like a rambling, long-form discussion on just with myself outside in the smokers area, or just in my room, wherever, you know. And I otherwise hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.